Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marie Sandoval. I manage stakeholder and community engagement for development services. And thank you all so much for joining us today. Before we get started, I want to quickly review the engagement format for today's meeting. We have an hour and a half set aside for today's program. We're going to start with a presentation and close with Q&A. Questions can be posted to the Q&A bank by selecting that option at the bottom of your screen, or they can be asked in person at the end of the session using the raised hand function also at the bottom of your screen. If you're having issues with either of those functions, please feel free to chat one of the meeting hosts. They'll help troubleshoot any issues you might be experiencing. While we hope to be able to answer all of your questions, for those who do not have the information, for those for which we do not have the information, we will post a follow-up response. I'd also like to note that the meeting will be recorded. You all will receive a link to the presentation and the recording later this week. With that, I'll turn it over to Acting Assistant Director Brenda De La Garza to get us started.
Thank you so much, Marie. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Building Plan Review and Inspections Stakeholder Meeting. Our interim director, Jose Roig, was supposed to be here today, but he was called away, so I'm going to cover his slides today in his absence. We've got a lot to cover today, so let me start with, if we can click over to the next slide, I'm going to go over the overview of what we're going to cover today. So as many of you know, there have been some pretty significant changes recently, and we're going to start with a few organizational updates. We're also going to discuss our 2023 priorities and critical initiatives that are already underway. And then the division managers are going to provide operational updates, which include volume and performance, process improvements recently completed and underway, and critical initiatives. Next slide, please. Again, as many of you are aware, our previous director did retire at the end of January, and Jose Roig was appointed to serve as our interim director effective February 1st. At that time, we had 2 vacant assistant director positions, and to ensure strong leadership for those service areas, interim director Roig appointed Keith Mars as acting assistant director over land development review, and I was appointed as acting assistant director over building plan review. Effective March 24th, we also merged with the Austin Code Department. And as director of Austin Code, and this is speaking on behalf of Director Roig, this is really an exciting shift. Austin Code and Development Services have long been partners in assuring the safety of our built environment. This realignment formalizes our working relationship and streamlines how the city provides these services and brings our organizational structure in line with the best practices of our peer cities. As you can see on this slide, in this new organizational structure, we have Assistant Director Elaine Garrett, who oversees our commercial and residential neighborhood enforcement and will begin to oversee Austin Center for Events and the Entertainment Service Group, which does include music and entertainment enforcement. We also have Assistant Director Daniel Word, who oversees licensing and registration, the repeat offender program, short-term rental enforcement, and alarm administration. We have Assistant Director Tracy Allen, who oversees case review and escalation, Code Connect and 311 support, training and professional standards, and DSD IT. We also have Deputy Director Angela Means, who continues to oversee customer experience, finance, human resources, records management, safety, and stakeholder and community engagement. And last but not least, we also have Assistant Director Rick Holloway, who continues to oversee all divisions of construction and environmental inspections. And I can speak for Mr. Roig in saying that we are all excited about this leadership structure and what we are all bringing to the table and how this alignment will continue to serve our stakeholders. Next slide, please. As a community service provider, our areas of focus change from year to year. We listen to the data and the community we serve, and we're constantly working to adjust based on those inputs. This year, we're laser focused on improving turnaround times and site plan, onboarding our public projects team and improving affordable housing outcomes, smoothing out the procedural edges with our partner departments and working to better align interdepartmental work and reconnecting with stakeholders across all sectors of the community. We will be working with all of you as our development partners to do this right. Next slide, please. So before I hand over the microphone to our leadership team, I'd also like to highlight a few of our critical initiatives that are underway and that represent movement on the priorities that we just covered. So I mentioned improvements to the site plan process as a major priority for this year. This work has already begun. In March of this year, we began working with McKinsey & Company, which is a private sector consulting firm. McKinsey has been working with DSD and all 11 partner departments to take a detailed look at the site plan process and help us identify opportunities for sustained improvement. This work is scheduled to conclude in mid-June, and we can expect to see a set of recommendations informed by staff and stakeholders, which we believe will have a positive impact across all development processes. We've also been working with our partner departments to build out the public projects team, which will formally launch in June. This is an interdepartmental review team created to support review needs for the influx of publicly funded projects we will receive. It was also recently expanded to include review for permanent supportive housing. We've been piloting permanent supportive housing projects to build out new processes, and we're excited to launch this service more formally next month. In support of our 2023 priorities, we'll also be working to expand on how we report performance. Our goal will be to ensure that the community has access to useful performance data that reflects the customer experience. We don't have a timeline for that just yet, but we will be working with stakeholders to build this out, and we'll keep you all updated by way of our monthly newsletters. The city's Communication and Technology Management Department has formally launched an initiative that will move us toward replacing Amanda, which is the city's permitting system. This is an exciting step for us as an organization, and it will better position us for more meaningful process improvements. You all have likely heard a lot about the impact that workforce turnover has had on the development process and on the city as a whole. We have been working with the Human Resources Department to amplify recruitment efforts in particularly hard to fill areas. And last but certainly not least, we're expanding community engagement. We are reinitiating our broad format stakeholder meetings, and this meeting is the first in that series. We'll also continue to host small format engagements and targeted stakeholder groups. We plan to kick off a customer satisfaction survey initiative later this summer, and that will help us collect satisfaction data in real time. This is all very exciting work. And so with that, let me introduce the managers that are going to be joining us today. We've got Brent Lloyd, who's the development officer, and he oversees regulatory policy and administration. Roderick Burns, manager of our customer experience unit. Chief Plans Examiner Jennifer Verhulst, along with Myra Rivera, Alan Wu, and Steve Leach with Building Plan Review and Expedited Building Plan Review. Jim Timkowski, Acting Division Manager for Community Tree Preservation. Chief Building Inspector Todd Wilcox, along with Scott Cochran and Marty Starrett with Building Inspections. Amanda Wyrick, who is presenting on behalf of Brian Egan for Environmental Inspections, and Cliff Phillips over DSD IT. And with that, I will turn the slides over to Brent Lloyd. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. It's great to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity to see so many of y'all and to present kind of an overview of what my division has done in the last few months. If we could go to the next slide. So my group, one of the things that we're involved in is sort of being a point of contact and an interface with City Hall on code amendments specifically to the Land Development Code. And under the initial direction of ACM Gonzalez, before ACM Briseño took over as ACM for our department, a code cabinet was created that is basically an interdepartmental group of people that are intended to be experts and the folks that will work most directly on moving staff proposals to amend the Land Development Code forward through the boards and commissions process and eventually to council adoption. And that process is off the ground and running, and we're having regular meetings to move forward the backlog of amendments that have built up really since the pandemic and since the demise of the code rewrite. And we're making tremendous progress. And we provided a briefing to Council's Housing and Planning Committee yesterday afternoon, and that's positive. And we're moving forward very at a rapid clip on Site Plan Light. And in July, after the recess, Council will be voting on the provision that will allow up to 4 units to be subject to standard building plan review. And we are rapidly moving forward as well with the more challenging but also very impactful piece, which is the modified site plan requirements for up to 16 units. We've also hired a rules administrator, which is a new position, not just for DSD, but for the city of Austin. And kind of in broad strokes, this position is intended to provide a more holistic interdepartmental approach to the adoption of criteria manuals. And it will exercise some oversight authority citywide regarding how criteria manuals are adopted going forward. And additionally, it will be a critical point of contact and the primary liaison with the Technical Advisory Review Panel, which Council voted to authorize the manager to establish a few months ago. So we are working with our rules administrator to impanel a group of outside experts as well as key representatives of land development code departments to work collaboratively and holistically in looking at all things related to criteria manuals. And this process is not up and running yet. There's a lot of work to do to get it set up and have operating procedures and a clear, orderly process for how agenda items will be posted. But we are well on our way to having this up and running. And again, this will be working in tandem with the rules administrator, hopefully bring about a new culture in terms of criteria manuals and how they're amended and adopted. And so we're excited to be a part of that. And those are just a few items. I think the most critical items for this group to know about that my division is working on. Appreciate the opportunity to address this group and always available to answer questions or hear any comments from y'all. So thanks a lot.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Roderick Burns. I'm the division manager for the Customer Experience Unit. Customer Experience Unit is made up of the 3 intake teams: land use, residential and commercial, and also the service center. So I'm going to be giving you some stats, performance and volume information on those groups. And I'm going to start off with the one that's probably most relevant to everybody these days, which is, it's called our time in queue now. This is the amount of time when you submit something to us, how much time it takes us to process things. Right now, on the residential side, we're at 2 business days. We're down 33% from the 3 business days that we were at in April of 2022. And on the commercial side, we're down to 1 business day now, which is a 75% decrease from the 4 days we were at in April of 2022. During that time, the residential team has processed 3,874 applications since October of this past year, as opposed to the 6,602 applications that we did in FY22 during that same period of time. That's a 41% decrease. And then the commercial team has processed 1,555 applications, as opposed to 1,668 in FY 2022, and that's a 7% decrease. During the top period of October to April of this year, the residential and commercial teams have processed 1,259 tickets between the 2 groups, and they've had 7,229 chats processed. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. What backwards? I was looking at the wrong thing. My apologies, everybody. For the service center, our time in queue has decreased from 18 business days in April of 2022 down to 4 business days currently, and that's a 78% decrease. And then our ABC portal time in queue has decreased from 8 business days in April of 2022 down to 1 to 2 business days in currently, and that's a 75% decrease. The Service Center has issued 2,646 residential permits in this current fiscal year since October, and that's a 16% decrease from the previous year. And then the commercial permits have increased to 7,147, up 2% for the year. The Service Center is actually, this is our business area. They've actually had 14,173 tickets submitted for the year, which is basically double the amount of the other 2 teams that I just mentioned. And then they've also had 17,079 chats initiated since October. Next slide, please. And some of the process improvements we've made is we improved access to the chat icon on the webpage. That was in the Service Center. We've added emergency options for ABC applications. That was kind of in response to the last winter storm we had. We've updated the web forms and created web pages with thorough instructions for each, and we've done that in several of our areas. On the residential part, the residential team, we assisted in updating the residential application and web page to capture additional information that's needed to get the submittal process going. And then in one of our work groups, not in the land use review, but we're planning to implement it in these, the 2 building plan sides of the house, but we're working to launch targeted document submittal to improve efficiency and reduce the time in queue. And what that means is, as people are submitting things to us, we're going to ask for specific documents at specific points that you have to upload. And if you don't, you can't move forward through the process. So those are just some of the things that we've got going on here. And that's all I have for you today. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Verhulst with the Building Plan Review Team.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Verhulst, the Chief Plans Examiner over Commercial, Residential, and Structural Review Teams. Next slide. So let's take a look at our volume and performance data so far this year. We've seen a decrease in the number of reviews completed, which is related to a decrease in an application volume on our residential side. The number of reviews has decreased by 28%. As a result, we've improved our on-time metrics by 11%. In commercial review, we have seen an increase in the number of reviews completed, up from 14% last year. Even with an increased volume, process improvements and leadership efforts have resulted in a 30% increase in our on-time metrics. We have been able to fill all review staff vacancies as well as filling key leadership positions. In the last 4 months, we have filled the roles of Chief Plans Examiner, Residential Manager, Residential Technical Supervisor, and Commercial Supervisor. We look forward to continuing to improve our turnaround times, find efficiencies, and focus on quality and consistency with these additions. Next slide. Residential review has worked on several notable process improvements this year. Standard comment libraries have moved to a new SharePoint site, which is accessible by all plans examiners performing residential zoning and technical reviews. This includes staff from standard and expedited review teams. The comment libraries are easier to access, have uniform formatting, and allow for hyperlinks to be inserted within comments. The coordinating review process is now more evenly split between our zoning and technical review teams. As a result, the coordinating review times have improved. We're also working on a new distribution process to be performed by residential plan review to reduce the time spent between the submittal of an application by a customer and when it is assigned to plans examiners for review. The new process will result in increased involvement of the supervisors who can assign projects based on skill set and workload capacity. Next slide. Commercial review has also launched several process improvements this year. Electric vehicle charging stations can now be submitted for a 24-hour quick turnaround review. An information sheet as well as a list of ineligible projects are available on our website. In addition, there is now a daycare webpage which provides resources for daycares and other care providers as they navigate the development process. It explains how to get permits and/or a certificate of occupancy for daycare structures. It also outlines the process for residential and commercial zone properties describes submission requirements, and how to request help if needed. The commercial staff have been assisting with training of the new public projects team for their first 60 days of employment. Public project team reviewers are stationed with commercial review staff to learn the standard review processes, including technical review, and to ensure consistent practices between teams at DSD. As noted earlier in the presentation, the public projects team's mission is to support all capital and publicly funded projects. Time trade appointment channels have been reconfigured from 2 channels, building reviewers and MEP reviewers, to now 4 channels, building, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing. This change allows customers to get to the correct disciplines more immediately and reduces the need for phone calls and emails. In addition, MEP discipline lines now open for meetings at 7:30 a.m. to better align with contractor hours. The current time trade schedules always have availability and currently average 14 to 16 appointments a day. Approximately 90% of appointments are requested in virtual format. Next slide. Continuing commercial review process improvements, plumbing review staff are now reviewing for utility site plans after site plan corrections to reduce issues with grease trap locations and prevent issues with site utilities being shown in different locations from the site plan to the construction drawings. We've also implemented a way to document pre-submittal meetings so that reviewers can communicate information from time trade appointments for reference on future submittals. Next slide. We are also working on some critical initiatives. We are reevaluating the process for requests for extensions of expired plan review or PR folders. We're working to clearly define the process and timelines for expired plan review applications. Project Docs, the platform most commonly used in expedited review, is now being considered as a case management system for the Volume Builder program. Commercial review is working to develop a comprehensive checklist for all disciplines of what is reviewed for commercial swimming pools. Swimming pools can be complicated with pool pump rooms and hazardous materials like storage of chlorine. Egress and accessibility can also be challenging, so this checklist should help clarify the requirements. And in addition, commercial review is also working to create a shell building do's and don'ts guideline to provide additional information on what is allowed under a shell permit, such as HVAC, restrooms, lighting, etc., but to clarify that shells do not receive a certificate of occupancy. Next slide. And a reminder from our structural team, new to the 2021 IBC, projects that require or that are high rise or risk category 3 or 4 require structural observations to be performed in accordance with IBC section 1704.6.1. A completed structural observation form acknowledging that observations will be performed is required as part of the permit review. That form can be found on our website. And that is all from plan review. Similarly to my colleagues, I'm always open to feedback, so glad to present to you all today and be able to catch up with our stakeholders. Now I'll pass it on to Steve Leach to discuss expedited plan review.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Steve Leach. I'm the acting manager of expedited plan review. Let me go through our metrics real quickly. If we could move to the next slide, please. So expedited has a residential review component as well as a commercial review component. These are the numbers for residential. Fiscal year to date, our residential volume is we've received 226 applications, which is down substantially from this time last year. Our appointment wait time is nine business days, which is about as low as it goes, since we build in about a week between submittal and the first opportunity to have a meeting. Approved in cycle 1 is 79% fiscal year to date, which is down 8% from this time last year. If we could move on to the next slide, please. These are our commercial numbers. 183 applications received fiscal year to date, which is down 13% from last year. Our appointment wait time is 21 business days. And again, that's about as small as you'll see it, because we build in about 2 weeks to 10 business days. 20 business days to allow our team to do a prerequisite review and then to allow the design team to respond to those initial comments before the first meeting. Approved in cycle one number for this fiscal year is 53%, which is down substantially from what it was at this time last year. I don't at this time have a good grasp on why that number is down. I've got some ideas, but that's us putting together these numbers has caused us to go in and start investigating where that shortcoming is coming from. If we could go to the next slide, please. So we've the last year or so we've struggled, as was mentioned early on, with recruitment, and we've kind of been hobbling along with an incomplete review staff. We have recently, however, filled out our plumbing, mechanical, and our residential technical review staff. We've got currently, all positions are full. We've got one of our 3 plumbing reviewers is still in training, so he has not started really to contribute yet. 2 of our 3 mechanical reviewers are in training, and they haven't really started to contribute yet. And then we've got 1 residential technical reviewer who is in training, but he has started to do some reviews. We're working with our partner departments, specifically fire and structural review, to supplement our lack of staff there. Those are 2 areas where it's been historically hard for us to get a full slate of reviewers, but both of those groups have been very cooperative and have managed to find us people when we need them. We are working with our IT group to streamline the street impact fee review process as it relates to plan review. Just very briefly, what we're working to do there is to link the street impact folder in our database to the plan review folder for the projects that we look at, so that once it's been determined that a street impact fee is due and an invoice has been created, the plan review process can be approved so that the overall PR folder can go into approved status and move forward. And then what we would like to see is that the fee itself might be assessed at the same time that building permit fees are assessed, in other words. So we could approve the plan review, but the permit would still not be available until that fees paid. That's a work in progress. And then just a recent process improvement that we've made is that revisions to projects which were originally reviewed by the expedited department are being routed back to expedited, so that we can hopefully be a little bit more consistent and get some continuity and shorten the learning curve with the reviewers. The hope is that if we send it back to expedited, the reviewers who saw it the first time will look at the revision and hopefully get these things out faster with fewer complications. All right, that's all I have. Passing it on to Mr. Dymkowski.
Good afternoon, everybody. Again, I am Jim Dymkowski, Acting Division Manager, Community Tree Division. I'm glad to be here again for this week's stakeholder meeting. Some of you I see from last week's meeting. So I am glad to present and provide the information that we have. Next slide, please. So as far as our single family plan review, tree reviews, those reviews are down about 29% from year to date last year. Our on-time rate is up from this time last year, and we are processing each application or each update about 20% faster than we were year to date last year. Next slide, please. The overall reviews, you can see, are down about 44% from last year. These are the standalones, things like DDIs, utility repairs, ones that are not involving a building plan review. We are 98% on time, which is up from last year, and we are processing those about 18% faster than last year. Next slide, please. So what we have been working on over the last year, some of you may have heard this last week in the other stakeholder meeting, but we have completed the updating of sections 3.5 and 3.6 of the environmental criteria manual, improving those sections for guidance on mitigation and preservations, and updating. We are in the process right now of updating the single family plan review comment library, going through those to be consistent with the new criteria manual, and also trying to clarify and maybe remove some comments that may be outdated, and try to clarify some additional comments so they're easier for you all when you receive them. We added, took a lot of data collection through our DDI process, noticing that Arizona ash, a non-native ash species here in our area, we receive a lot of DDIs for that tree. So with the most recent criteria manual update, those trees have been added to the mitigation exempt species list. So if you have a request for removal in one of your plan reviews, these trees no longer require even a single tree mitigation. We also work to create a new tree permit category for standalone single family sites that may not be under construction with a plan review that might have a previous violation. When you're applying for those, if you have this situation in portal, there will be a new standalone tree violation permit application. Next slide, please. We've also worked over the last year with building plan review to improve the demolition PR process. We're now able to request additional information, have more than one update, to ask for missing materials like tree surveys, things that having them at the demolition process, knowing that the trees are out there, will make it a lot easier both on the staff for reviewing the new build that will come in later, and also for yourselves to have the accuracy if you are actually purchasing or taking over a site that may have been demoed by somebody else. And we continue to host our Tree Smart Lunch and Learns. We actually had one today for the single family plan review, and we will continue to provide those, and because we've gotten excellent feedback from y'all, and thank you for that and for your attendance. And now I pass it on to building inspection.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Wilcox, Chief Building Inspector. Go through the building inspection slides. Next slide, please. So as far as our stats go in residential, we had 121,979 inspections, which were down 7% from the same time period in 2022. But we increased our on-time percentage up 9% to 80% on time. In commercial, we're down 1% to 45,356. With an increased on-time percentage of 91%, up 5% from this same time period last year. Next slide. So in residential, we continue to invest in inspector education and certifications. And we've had a lot of turnover in recent years, so we're pushing certifications and trying to get everybody training that they need so they can get up to speed on all the certifications that are required. We've increased OJT to help maintain consistency in recognizing life safety deficiencies and increased the number of daily inspections. Developed an internal flow chart for inspections for modular homes. We're also working with AFD to restrict scheduling for required prerequisite fire inspections when it comes to the WUI code inspections prior to building inspections to minimize out of sequence inspections when framings or finals. Next slide, please. We're conducting bi-weekly site meetings. Actually, we'll ask the general contractor if we can our entire team can meet on site on an active job site, and they're led by the supervisors or designated inspectors to improve consistency in inspections. We're working to implement the radio buttons that pull layout and pull final building process to reduce the number of unaccounted for third-party paperwork that we need. It allows the inspector to click a button, yes, no, or NA, which blocks out the final or the layout until we have that paperwork submitted. And we're creating an inspection handbook for all inspectors that will function as a quick reference in the field. That handbook is due to be printed soon, and we'll be getting that out to all of our residential inspectors, which goes hand in hand with the on-site training and certifications and everything else we have going. Next slide. In commercial, same thing. We're going to continue to invest in education and certifications. We're increasing training on code requirements and the associated documentation to increase consistency. We've enhanced our building pre-con inspection to emphasize building safety and address common inspection issues. Next slide. We've expanded the timed inspections program to commercial properties, which results in time savings for the applicant. We've improved gas system testing processes for gas outages, and we've added an emergency on-call service and developed an associated SOP for after-hours pulled gas meter inspections to expand access for emergencies. We developed a new multifamily permanent power checklist to streamline the permanent power inspections. We've developed a new medical gas SOP to clarify the requirements and streamline the process for applicants and plan review. We've updated the annual permit SOP to improve consistency for applicants and inspectors, and we've increased inspector availability for topic-specific stakeholder meetings. We're conducting regular meetings with review staff, both MEP, building, and structural. I guess all of the above, to improve consistency between review and inspections. And we're preparing for the adoption of the 2023 National Electric Code, and about to have the kickoff meetings for internal discussions on the 2024 I-Code and Uniform Code adoption process. And I believe that's all for building. I'll turn it over to Amanda in environmental.
Hello, thank you everybody for attending today. I hope to go over things that have been happening with environmental inspection, and will be here on behalf of Brian Egan to answer any questions. Again, my name is Amanda Wyrick. I am the enforcement supervisor with environmental inspections. Next slide. So we have both residential and commercial inspections. Our residential numbers for the year to date we are up from last year. This time, 10,464 residential inspections have taken place. Again, you can see that has doubled from last year what has taken place during this time. Those are our routine inspections, required monthly inspections that an inspector goes by and just shows up to conduct an inspection. Our called tree BP inspections consist of our pre-con, interim tree inspection, and final tree inspection on our residential properties have gone up 8% from last year to a total of 6,132 so far this year. Next slide, please. On our commercial side, our routine inspections are up. Again, that's our required monthly inspections that those inspectors conduct. We're up to 9,690 year to date. Our called inspections on an environmental BP is going to be your environmental TCO stocking, TCO occupancy, environmental inspection are down from last year, 1,194 on our commercial building permits. And then our specific landscape inspections, which are also conducted by our environmental inspection staff, are down 31% from this time last year, and we've conducted 343 so far. Next slide, please. I'd like to go over some process improvements. We are finally fully staffed in both our residential commercial enforcement groups. We have implemented a new notice of violation process. Instead of our normal stop work order procedures that you would see on a site that does not have a permit. This new process will allow inspection staff to better communicate with the public as to let them know what violations are taking place on the property and hopefully allow them to better understand what is needed in order to bring that property back into compliance, separate from our normal active permitted sites that are used to our notice of violation and stop work order processes. We've streamlined the 311 process for environmental complaints. So instead of you just sending a complaint through 311 and it going to another person and then to an admin and then to an environmental inspector, all environmental complaints go directly to our 4 enforcement staff. They are divvied up throughout the city, northeast, northwest, southwest, southeast. And that environmental compliance inspector can respond immediately to priority complaints such as discharge or tree removal. If it is needs to go to an assigned inspector, then they work with them on a regular basis and can immediately get that to the required inspector to improve our process time and response to complaints that we receive. We have launched our environmental inspections lunch and learn. We will be having one June. Please come and attend. We are going over overview and would like to hear feedback. I am in charge of those lunch and learn sessions and want to know what you want to learn about. I've heard about particularly residential inspections or lake inspections and what takes place and how to work best with our environmental inspection staff to achieve our build times and erosion and sedimentation controls and tree protection working together as best we can. We also moved the sound enforcement team to the entertainment services group. Sound enforcement was also under environmental enforcement. This has freed up the environmental supervisor position over compliance, and I am working on training for the entire group within environmental inspections for residential, commercial, and enforcement team to make sure that we are better consistent across the board with our interpretation of the rules and enforcement as such. Know most of you out there from working. If there's any questions or anything, please feel free to reach out. I am always here, even if Brian is not available. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Amanda. Todd, if I can get you to go ahead and pull the presentation down, and if I could also get my fellow panelists to go ahead and turn their cameras on. So, okay, we are now at the Q&A portion of the program today. As mentioned at the beginning of the program, there are going to be 2 ways to ask questions. One option is going to be to post a question to the Q&A bank by clicking the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. I'll read your question into the record and then designate a panelist to assist with the response. We've already started answering some of those questions, so if you want to see a record of questions asked and answered, please toggle to that button and click the Answered tab, and you can see the questions that have already been responded to. The other option is going to be to ask your question in person. To do that, just raise your hand by clicking the raise hand icon also at the bottom of your screen. We'll call your name and Zoom will prompt you to allow your account to be unmuted. And we'll toggle between the 2, assuming we'll have questions in both formats. And with that, I'll get started with one of the questions that is in the Q&A bank. So this question is from Cody Carr. The question is that it appears residential environmental inspections are up 119%. It's 10,000 plus inspections. Has the increase in inspections led to any notable positive outcomes? Is data available for the number of passes versus fails? I'm going to ask Amanda to help us with that question.
Yes, the number of routine environmental inspections has been process improvement, with our residential environmental inspection staff actually entering a process in the EV folder when they are on the site, as well as in the building permit itself. This available, the data is available for number of passes and fails. We would have to do a search to get you some more information. But yes, we could query the final inspection and the number of passes versus the number of fails. This is not necessarily a change in how often your environmental inspector has been there. It's just more so of a making sure that our inspection staff is inputting the data. So that way we have a record of what was discussed on the site, was a site compliant, and actually being able to query that data that they were there and what happened during that inspection. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Amanda. And for those on the call, what we'll do is, I mentioned a Q&A report that we issue about a week out from every engagement. We will include anything we were unable to provide during this meeting. We will include that in the Q&A document. So we're working closely with Amanda to query the data that's requested here and include it in that Q&A report. Thanks, Cody. Next question, seeing there are no hands raised, I'll go to the next question in the Q&A bank, which is also from Cody Carr. In an event to reduce friction and redundancy in the field, have inspections leadership given any thought to having residential inspector also inspect tree fencing, mulch, and clearing those? So Amanda or Todd?
I believe you're asking for environmental inspectors, or are you asking for building inspection to inspect those? Just need a little clarification.
So Cody, we're gonna unmute you so you can ask that question live and hopefully help Amanda with the clarification.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
We can.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the presentation today. It looks like times are shortening and a lot of the backlog is clearing up and the number of permits going through the system's down. So hopefully that allows people to catch a breather from COVID. But yeah, with regard to my question, it seems to me that it would be obvious, but if we have a City of Austin official on site, an inspector, and they're already inspecting, say, electrical components or HVAC components or foundation integrity and so forth, having them look over and maybe check that the silt fencing is still up or check that the tree fencing is up or the mulch is on the ground. If that inspector is there on site, why not go ahead and have them check all those things rather than have 2 or 3 different interfaces with different inspectors on the same site, especially when it comes to small site controls. It's a lot of work on the private side for our project managers to wait and see one inspector, only to wait a couple hours and have another inspector come by the same site. So it seems like it could save time on your side and our side. Thank you.
I definitely understand where you're coming from. I think that would be a discussion that would need to take place definitely between building inspection and environmental inspection. Speaking from an environmental inspection standpoint, you have an expert in regards to erosion and sedimentation controls and tree protection and the multitude of codes that go into those types of inspection by having an environmental inspector on the site, while you have your building, electrical, mechanical, plumbing inspectors that may be able to notice if there was a major problem, being, you know, a lot of dirt out on the street or a severe wound in a tree. They are tasked with knowing so many particular codes in regards to what they are inspecting. I know myself as an environmental inspector, couldn't walk on your site with having, you know, even minimal training and be able to tell you whether an electrical wiring component was installed correctly. So, you know, you're getting the best of both worlds by having the 2 inspectors, but I definitely understand the ease that would come from having one and being able to take place, but definitely something I know that Brian and Todd would probably like to discuss further. It's a good point. Thank you, Cody.
Thank you, Amanda and Cody. All right, we've got Sophia Dana in the audience for the question.
Hi, I have a question in regards to, well, I'm a volume builder member associate, and I've worked with the volume builder program for quite a while. And I see that we are looking at putting the volume builder submittals through PDocs. And from what I have, well, not necessarily witnessed, because I haven't handled PDOCs, but with the PDOCs versus the Bluebeam, it seems that the PDOCs is a much stronger program, that maybe it's too much for submittals for Volume Builder, because I think that the Bluebeam program seems to be working fine. So I'm just wondering, how did we get to this possibility? Jennifer?
Jennifer?
Hey, Sophia, it's just something that we are investigating at this point in time, and so we're just on the beginning stages of that process right now.
Okay. So I guess we'll have questions later then, huh?
Sophia, I'd like to also add, so as Jennifer said, this is exploratory. There, nothing is set in stone. We're evaluating it. But I just also want to make the distinction between Bluebeam and Project Docs. They have different functions. So Bluebeam is going to be your reader. It's going to allow you to do everything that you do with your plans, editing, commenting. But Project Docs, where that comes into play, is the workflow of the development process. So it's two different things, and Project Docs does work in conjunction with Bluebeam. So it's not one or the other. The two would work in sync. But again, I know hearing this, it might have been a surprise, but we are just really in the exploratory phase, and we're just investigating to see, just what options we have for that process.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, we've got a question from Rodney Bennett in the Q&A bank. So Rodney says, hello and thank y'all. Not a question, but a serious concern. Many of you were not here during the previous switch over to Amanda and do not know the stress that's put on the customer. I recall it taking upwards of 8 hours to have a single permit issued and 4 hours to do a submission to residential commercial. This lasted months. Are you going to prevent this issue? I'm going to ask for IT manager Cliff Phillips to help with this response.
No, Rodney, I appreciate your question. We are very much aware of the issues that were encountered when that switchover took place, and are making every effort as we move forward to mitigate those type of risks. The system we would go to is a brand new system with hopefully be more efficient. But again, we are doing everything we can to prevent that from happening again. It has come up, and in our retrospective meetings when we went live with a new version of Amanda, that was at the top of the list. So yes.
Thank you, Cliff. In case I missed it, I would also add that it's actually our communications and technology management department that manages will manage the process of rolling out the new Amanda, and we'll be working closely with them as a part of that. And as Cliff mentioned, sharing all of the concerns that you all are bringing to the table. So this is a really great question, and you all can expect to be engaged more on this topic in the future. All right, we've got a hand up in the audience, Pinaki Ghosh.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. So in the last permit application, I saw a new thing come up, which is called the wildland urban interface. It's a pretty wild thing, but sorry, that was a joke. But my question is, this increases the cost of development by quite a bit. Who is in charge of it? Is it the fire department or the development department? And what is the, how does the criteria manual tie to this? That's number one part of the question. Number two is that there are certain state laws which are tied to it, like floodplains are tied to the FEMA maps. You just cannot go and create a floodplain of your own. So have you conferred or checked with the state laws before creating this set of rules? Thank you.
Jennifer, can you help us with that one?
Sure. So the WUI code is reviewed for and enforced by our fire department and fire prevention team. So I think it might be better if we can maybe get those questions and get those to our colleagues and provide a response that way. Would that work, Marie?
We will definitely do that. Thank you, Jennifer. All right, question from David Steele. When is the 2023 NEC going into effect, and when will the COA amendments for that code cycle be available? I think Marty Starrett was going to help with a response to that question.
Yes, thank you. As you know, the state adopts it September 1st of this year. We're almost ready to go to council for the public hearing portion of it. I will say that the City of Austin amendments are pretty much going to be stay the way they are now. It's just very minor verbiage change from the 2020 code amendment we had. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty. Next question is from Cody Carr. Is there any plan to bring back permit activation or residential review services in person? Roderick?
Cody, at this time, there is not. We're still having some discussions, but to be able to do in person and online, it's hard to keep up with both of them. I mean, the service center has a quantity that's extremely high, period. And so trying to divert staff to do in person and online stuff and keep it all moving at the same time, it's just hard to do. And that's in addition to all of the other communication avenues that we have available for staff. So at this time, there's not, but again, we're looking at options to see what is available.
Thank you, Roderick. Next question is also for you. Oh, did you, I see that you answered that live, or did you answer that in writing from Rodney? Okay, gotcha. All right, any more questions, you all? I see no more questions in the Q&A bank, and I see no more hands raised. We've got a question from Sophia Dana.
Actually, can I step in, Marie? I'm going to ask staff if you have any questions that we take those internally offline so that we can address those with the staff directly. Thank you.
You got it.
So this is just a quick question to go back to the very beginning. Did I hear this right, that we are replacing Amanda?
That is correct. We are working closely with CTM to evaluate options for replacing Amanda.
And then okay, so we don't know how long that will be.
I don't know that I have a sense for timeline. Cliff, can you help with that?
Yeah, no, we don't at this point in time. We're still gathering requirements. As you know, Amanda's a pretty complex system. So as those requirements are completed, it'll help us determine the timeline. You know, a project this big is a multi-year project. It's not going to happen quickly, but it hopefully will happen more efficiently than previous upgrades.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Cliff. We've got a question. Let's see, Cody Carr.
Hey, y'all, last question, I promise. Just as a question I've actually already asked, but I'm more just kind of curious. So with regard to the new tree permit process, if staff could speak a little bit to why a new permit type was created and kind of give us an example of a situation that would solve that can't currently be solved through the TORA process. I guess I was a little confused by the written answer. Thanks.
Sure. There are multiple instances when we respond to a complaint where a tree has been removed by definition that is not associated with an active building permit or site plan permit. And that tree or evidence is not necessarily in place or is fully in place where an owner can provide the documentation that is needed during the review process of pictures, measurements, history that is required during the review process or during that TORA process. The removal of a tree by definition does have to be remedied by obtaining a permit as is stated in code. So in order to make it easier to understand for an applicant to remedy a violation, if you, instead of having to do a standalone tree permit that requires pictures of everything from the top to the bottom of that tree. This new process can use enforcement pictures or other documentation or no documentation or previous permits to utilize measurements and photos to help them and assist them in that review process to get that permit through review and then issued to then bring that property into compliance. It's strictly for violation purposes. So that way an applicant doesn't have to apply, wait 10 days and be denied because they don't have pictures, and then ask out to their enforcement inspector, my permit was denied, how can you help me? And we say, well, did you say that it's in violation? And so instead of going back and forth for what could be a lengthy process, this is more helpful to our customers and compliance efforts in speeding up that process.
And so is that a precursor to a residential review, or is that it's just a standalone for that particular issue?
It is usually just a standalone for that particular issue. If you are in violation from, I know you are a residential builder, so if a tree were removed by definition on a site that has either a permit in review or an active permit, we would use our notice of violation, stop work order, possible citation process for that violation, and the remedy to bring that property into compliance would be going back through that PR process through obtaining a new TORA for the removal.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you both. We've got a question from David Steele.
I just wanted to get some clarification on my question for the NEC. I know the state is adopting it September 1. The way their language reads, it sounds like they will be enforcing the 2023 NEC on anything that does not already have a permit by September 1. And historically, Austin has taken the tact where anything submitted for review prior to the adoption date is not required to comply. And so that was kind of the crux of my question there.
And it's still the city of Austin's, we look at I'm sorry about that. My lights went out in my office, but yeah, that's our, if it's permitted on or after September 1st, is under the 2023, or we also look at the end date of the plan review process. So if the end date of the plan review is September 1st or beyond, it would be under the 2023 enforcement wise for the city of Austin.
Okay, so if I've got a project that I'm going to submit in July and it's a big project, it's going to take them a year or two to complete the project. It needs to be written under the 2023.
It's when the end date you submit it to plan review, when it's submitted to plan review. If it's before September 1st, you're under the 2020.
Okay, so it is the submittal date, not the approval date.
Yes, for plan review, but a standalone electrical would be the date that the permit was issued for a standalone.
Oh, okay. No, I'm asking about full-blown plan review. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, David and Marty. There are two more questions posted to the Q&A bank. The first one is, since Austin has been in a housing shortage for quite some time, why are single family homes considered a reasonable use and ADUs are not considered a reasonable use? What is unreasonable about an ADU? So I'm not sure if this is best responded to by Brent Lloyd or by Jennifer's group.
Brent might be able to better answer that question. Brent, are you able to?
Hey, Brent, one thing, there was another comment by by the person asking the question, clarifying that this is a question about tree permits. Sorry about that. So it sounds like this is maybe for Jim.
Okay, thanks. I agree. Jim can take this one. Thank you.
Sure. I mean, reasonable use since 1983, when the initial tree protection ordinance was developed and it was placed in that ordinance, has always been a review by review type situation. So there is swimming pools, ADUs, situations like that are reviewed individually each time they come in. But there has been if you have a single family home on the site, we will review your ADU as a secondary use. So that's probably the situation you're referring to, and currently that is has been the consistent review that ADUs are not a guaranteed use on a single family lot to meet the tree section of the code.
So there's a follow-up comment from the same individual, and the comment is, I hope we're not comparing ADUs to swimming pools. Housing is an essential thing for people, swimming pools are not.
I'm simply comparing different uses.
Thank you, Jim. Next question is from Rodney Bennett. So this question appears to also be for Jim and Amanda with regard to residential PR. Is there a document I can utilize for my customers when they're designing the project in relation to trees? Unicode's not very user-friendly when trying to find this information.
Are you talking about something more than the single family plan review checklist that is available with the applications? That's something that we've distributed in the past to the Home Builders Association and those members. That gives a general idea of the most common situations and types of comments and things that we're looking for on the plans. So I'm not quite sure if you're looking for something more than that.
Rodney, we're going to unmute you in hopes that you can clarify for Jim.
So I guess what I'm looking for is like a booklet, a pamphlet or something like that. I know in residential plan, they've got a pretty good resource for like the subchapter F, McMansion ordinance, that I can just quickly grab and show it to my customer and say, you got to comply with all this stuff. So as far as designing goes, when I get a customer and there's like, well, I want to put a pool here. I'm like, well, did you look around at the trees? You got to measure your trees. So I'm trying to go over a checklist, put it on my little arborist hat for them, and try to get everything done for them. I was wondering if there's like an online pamphlet or something that I could send to them.
Okay, so like I said, we do have the residential review checklist that covers anything that would be the disturbance on the single family lot, whether it be a pool or an ADU or the main house. We also have linked on our website 3 or 4 templates that were developed in conjunction with a local architect in town on indicates what clarifies what is considered impacts. It shows how to calculate things like the 50% impact, area to remain natural calculations, shows examples of tree preservation, shows examples of how to keep things like utilities and other disturbances outside of the critical root zone. Those might be also very helpful.
I guess I was looking for something a little bit more specific, like in regards to the notes that were always asked for about the tree protection and the mulch and the fencing. I haven't seen the thing that you're talking about on the checklist because I don't really look at it. I'll go back and look at it if I have a specific question, I'll contact you directly. Is that all right?
That's totally fine. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Rodney. All right, I see no more hands up and no more questions in the Q&A bank. Any additional questions before we come to a close? Stuart?
My question is, after the legislature finishes its work and the governor makes the decisions about what he's going to veto and what he's going to sign, is there going to be a stakeholder update meeting to go over what those changes are that impact Austin?
Stuart, you're asking about a stakeholder meeting for, I'm sorry, for future code amendments?
No, well, they're going to be future. If the legislature does what I expect them to do, there will be some required code changes in Austin. And once the legislature takes its action and the governor takes his action to sign or veto that legislation, is there going to be a stakeholder follow-up meeting with those of us who've been on the past couple calls to get a sense of how that changes what we may be submitting in the future?
That's a good question, Stuart. We have not quite determined exactly what that's going to look like, but we will take that under advisement. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you all so very much for coming today. We really, really appreciate it, and for participating. These were all great questions. All registrants will receive a link to today's meeting materials, and we'll also include responses to any unanswered questions from today's meetings in the follow-up Q&A that'll be out in about a week's time. If you find you have additional questions that you didn't have an opportunity to ask or that just kind of come to you later, you never have to wait for these meetings to ask those questions. Please always feel free to reach out via dsdcommunications@austintexas.gov. We're always happy to get you answers to any questions you might have or take any suggestions or feedback that you have to offer. On that note, everybody in this meeting will receive an engagement survey shortly after this meeting. Please, please, I implore you, take the engagement survey, give us your feedback. We want to design these meetings in a way that you find useful, and we want to provide you with the kind of information that you want and need. And we will do everything we can to incorporate every bit of feedback that you give us if you take a few minutes to fill out the survey. We would really, really appreciate that. Any questions before we go? Last questions? Okay, that brings us to a close. Thank you all so very much. We really appreciate it, and we will see you next time. Thank you.